My name is Dave Feinberg, and this is my unofficial guide to the 2026 AP Computer Science A exam. The changes I'm talking about go into effect in the fall of 2025. First, the big changes. Previously, you could expect maybe 4 multiple choice questions on inheritance. Starting in 2026, there will be 0 inheritance questions. Of course, you can still teach inheritance, but it won't appear on the AP exam. A couple of disclaimers here. The object class still appears in the quick reference. The course and exam description still tells us that class hierarchies, superclasses, and subclasses are essential knowledge, even though designing or implementing them is not, whatever that means. The most important change to the exam is that it now features text files. Much of this video will focus on this topic. Specifically, reading from text files like the one shown here. Let's write a Java method to read from this file. First, we construct a file object, passing the name of the file to the constructor. We're assuming here that our text file is saved in the same folder as our Java files. Our code won't compile until we import the file class from the java.io package. I/O stands for input/output. Now we construct a scanner object to read from the file. We need to import the scanner class from the java.util package. Constructing a scanner can result in an exception. Unlike other exceptions we encounter during the AP course, we must explicitly handle this exception before our code will compile. The easiest way to handle the exception is to declare that our method throws I/O exception. Unfortunately, now any method that calls our method won't compile until we handle the exception there. We can appease the compiler by declaring that this method also throws I/O exception. The scanner class's next method returns a chunk of text from the file, stopping when whitespace is reached. The first time next is called, the first chunk of the file is returned. The second time next is called, the second chunk is returned, and so on, and so on. The hasNext method returns true if there's more of the file left to read. It returns false when the end of the file is reached. Typically, we use a while loop to read from text files, with the loop continuing to run as long as hasNext returns true. It is good practice to call scanner's close method when you're done reading from a file. For the baseball.txt file, we'll call scanner's next method 3 times per loop, once for each of the 3 parts of a player's data. Each call to next returns a string, but it does not make sense to store our numeric data as strings. Therefore, we will call the scanner classes nextInt and nextDouble methods, so that we can store home runs as integers and batting averages as doubles. And now you know how to read from text files in Java. However, the course and exam description lists several more methods for reading text files, giving us a second way to accomplish roughly the same thing. It appears that students are responsible to know both ways. Scanner's nextLine method reads an entire line of text from a file. The first call to nextLine returns the first line from the file. The next call to nextLine returns the second line from the file, and so on. We will usually call nextLine in a while loop, reading until we reach the end of the file. In theory, we can use strings indexOf and substring methods to extract each chunk within a line, but this is messy. Thankfully, the string class provides a better way, the split method. Here, we pass a string consisting of a single space character to the split method, and it returns for us each of the string chunks from the line that are separated by spaces. These chunks are returned in an array of strings. Because there are 3 chunks separated by spaces on each line of our data, the length of the array returned by split is 3. Many data files, like the one shown here, separate chunks using commas instead of spaces. To read from these files, we simply pass a comma to the split method. We're not likely to see other strings passed as arguments to the split method besides space and comma. Back to our baseball file. The array returned by split stores each of the string chunks we want, but again, it does not make sense to store our numeric data as strings. Java's integer.parseInt and double.parseDouble methods let us convert strings into integers and doubles. And that is all you need to know about reading from text files. You can find a complete list of all these methods in the new Java Quick Reference, which appears at the end of the CED. Students will not be asked about writing to text files, and they will not be asked about using the scanner class to read from system.in. Now, onto the exam format. The old exam featured 40 multiple choice questions with 5 choices each, completed in 90 minutes for 50% of the exam score, and also 4 free response questions completed in 90 minutes for the other 50% of the exam score. The new exam format features 42 multiple choice questions, now with only 4 choices each, completed in 90 minutes, for 55% of the exam score. The free response questions are completed for the other 45% of the score. The old exam featured 4 free response questions. Most had 2 parts, and all were scored out of 9 points. In the new exam, question 1A will still emphasize ifs, loops, and method calls, but question 1B will focus on strings. Question 2 still has students writing a complete class definition, but its reduced point value suggests a smaller class. Question 3 will ask students to write just one method using array lists, not arrays. And question 4 will ask students to write just one method using 2D arrays. With fewer methods and points, it is likely that students will be writing less code in the new exam format. There are a few other testable topics that could potentially sneak onto the exam. In the course and exam description, there's a sample multiple choice question featuring class design diagrams like this one. All it means is that there is a class called cat with 2 instance variables, name and age. The minus signs tell us they're private, along with 2 methods, getName and getAge. The plus signs tell us that they are public. There's also a sample multiple choice question describing multiple data sets and asking us which ones can be used to determine some desired information. Finally, the course and exam description lists several other topics as essential knowledge, including system reliability, impact on society, economy, and culture, legal issues and intellectual property, personal privacy, and algorithmic bias. Check out AP Classroom for hints as to how these topics might be tested. And that completes our tour of the redesigned exam. For more information, see the new AP Computer Science A course and exam description and AP Classroom. Note that both now divide the course into just 4 units instead of 10. There are also updated and new labs. Most importantly, be sure to familiarize yourself with the updated Java Quick Reference found at the end of the course and exam description. That's everything. Thank you for watching, and good luck.